Hello, and welcome to Most Relaxing Facts. Tonight, we're exploring a different kind of consciousness, one made not of neurons and blood, but of algorithms and light. We're stepping into the quiet hum of server rooms where artificial minds are learning, dreaming, and reshaping what it means to think. Artificial intelligence is no longer science fiction. It's in your phone, guiding your searches, finishing your sentences, creating art and music and conversation. Yet for all its presence in our lives, AI remains deeply mysterious. A digital frontier where human ingenuity meets mathematical elegance, meets something altogether new. Over the next few hours, I'll guide you gently through 100 fascinating facts about artificial intelligence, how neural networks learn like children, how machines see the world through millions of pixels, how silicon chips process thoughts faster than lightning, yet still struggle with tasks a toddler finds simple. Let these insights into the digital mind carry you softly into the deepest, most restful sleep. If you enjoy these peaceful explorations of technology and wonder, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Most Relaxing Facts. Your support helps us decode more of the universe's beautiful mysteries together. But first, let's prepare to enter the Silicon Dream. Take a slow, deep breath in. Hold it for a gentle moment and release it completely, letting your thoughts settle like data finding its place. Feel yourself becoming calm, open, ready to drift through circuits and code, through digital landscapes where intelligence takes new and fascinating forms. There's no complexity here that you need to grasp, no equations to solve. Just listen and let the quiet wonder of artificial minds guide you towards sleep. The processors are humming, the networks are learning. The Silicon Dream begins now. Close your eyes and let me guide you into a different kind of quiet. Not the silence of abandoned cities or the depths of the ocean, but the humming stillness of the digital realm, where artificial minds process the world in landscapes of numbers, where data centers glow softly in the darkness, where thinking machines dream in vectors and probabilities. Tonight, here on Most Relaxing Facts, we're exploring the Silicon Dream, the world of artificial intelligence, the digital consciousness that learns and creates and imagines. This isn't a story of cold machines or dystopian futures, but of patient algorithms learning to understand poetry, of neural networks finding patterns like our own brains do, of AI completing Beethoven's unfinished symphonies and helping us decode the language of whales. This is the electric pulse, the gentle hum of processors thinking, the soft glow of servers in vast halls, the millisecond journey of data through undersea cables spanning the globe. Imagine machines that don't see in pictures but in mathematical landscapes, that don't think in words but in probability clouds, that create entirely new things never before existing in history. Imagine AI as a mirror reflecting our collective knowledge back to us, as an observer spotting what human eyes miss, as a creative partner finishing what was left incomplete, as a tool helping us understand forests and stars and the complex songs of creatures we share this world with. Tonight, we'll discover how thinking machines first began as ancient Greek myths, how they learn patterns without being explicitly taught, how they dream images from random static, how they read the subtle rhythms of human speech and the vast data of weather systems. We'll explore the data centers where digital minds hum in climate-controlled silence, the undersea cables carrying thought at the speed of light, the emergent behaviors where AI learns skills it was never taught. So settle into the quiet of this digital meditation. Let the gentle hum of electronic thought soothe you, and drift with me into the silicon dream, into the electric pulse, into the peaceful realm where artificial minds process the world with mathematical grace. The term artificial intelligence was born in the summer of 1956 at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire, where a small group of scientists gathered for a conference with an audacious goal: to explore whether machines could be made to simulate human thought, to reason, to learn, to solve problems, to be, in some meaningful sense, intelligent. The conference organizers, John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, Nathaniel Rochester, and Claude Shannon, proposed that every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can, in principle, be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. This was radical thinking for 1956, a time when computers were room-sized calculators, when the idea of machine intelligence was pure science fiction to most people. That summer gathering lasted 2 months, bringing together the brightest minds in mathematics, logic, and early computer science to dream about thinking machines, to imagine a future where silicon could simulate cognition, where electrical circuits could learn. Not all their predictions came true, and progress proved slower and more complex than they anticipated. But that conference planted seeds that grew into the AI revolution we're experiencing today, 7 decades later. The name itself, artificial intelligence, captures both the ambition and the mystery. Artificial, meaning made by humans rather than evolved naturally, and intelligence, that quality we struggle to define even in ourselves, that ability to learn, reason, understand, create. The term suggests machines that think, that possess something like mind, that bridge the gap between mechanical computation and conscious cognition. AI doesn't think the way humans think. When we think about an apple, we see it in our mind's eye, red or green, smooth skin, the taste, the crunch, memories associated with apples, emotions, context. But AI processes the world through vast landscapes of numbers called vectors, mathematical representations where each concept, each word, each pixel of an image becomes a point in high-dimensional space. Imagine a space with not 3 dimensions, but hundreds or thousands of dimensions, where each dimension represents some feature or quality. In this mathematical space, similar concepts cluster together. Relationships manifest as geometric patterns. Meaning becomes position and distance and angle. The AI doesn't see an apple, but processes a vector, a long list of numbers that represents where apple sits in this vast conceptual space, its relationships to fruit and red and tree and food. This seems alien, incomprehensible, nothing like human thought. Yet somehow, processing information this way, as patterns in numerical space, as mathematical relationships between vectors, allows AI to understand language, recognize images, make predictions, create new things. The silicon mind operates by completely different mechanisms than the biological brain, yet achieves results that sometimes seem eerily similar to human intelligence. The transformation from human-like concepts to vectors and back again is where the magic happens. Text becomes numbers. The AI processes those numbers through complex transformations, and numbers become text again, but text that responds, that seems to understand, that provides relevant answers. Images become numbers. Numbers transform through learned patterns. Numbers become new images. The numerical landscape is the AI's reality, the space where it operates, where it finds patterns and relationships that manifest to us as understanding. Neural networks are AI's attempt to mimic the structure of biological brains. The human brain contains about 86 billion neurons connected by trillions of synapses, creating a network of staggering complexity. Each neuron receives signals from other neurons, processes these inputs, and sends its own signals forward, creating cascading patterns of activation that somehow give rise to thought, memory, perception, consciousness. Artificial neural networks use the same basic principle, but with far simpler components. Digital neurons, really just mathematical functions, receive inputs, apply weights and transformations, pass outputs to the next layer of neurons. These networks are organized in layers, input layers that receive data, hidden layers that process and transform, output layers that provide results. When a neural network learns, it's adjusting the weights, the strength of connections between neurons based on examples and feedback. Show it thousands of pictures of cats labeled cat and dogs labeled dog, and through a process called backpropagation, the network gradually adjusts its weights until the patterns of activation reliably distinguish cats from dogs, finding the visual features that define each category without being explicitly told what those features are. This process mirrors how humans learn. A child learning language doesn't memorize grammar rules first, but hears thousands of examples, gradually internalizing patterns, learning what sounds right without necessarily understanding why. The neural network learns patterns from data the same way, building internal representations that capture essential features that allow generalization to new examples that manifest as something we recognize as understanding. When an AI generates an image through diffusion, the process behind many modern image generation systems, it starts with pure noise, a cloud of random digital static where every pixel is random, meaningless chaos. Then, through a learned process, it gradually refines this noise, removing randomness step by step, revealing coherent structure, transforming chaos into a clear picture. Imagine watching a photograph develop in reverse. Instead of emerging from chemical fog, it emerges from mathematical noise. The AI has learned, through training on millions of images, what images typically look like, how structure emerges from randomness, what patterns are probable versus improbable. At each step, it makes the image slightly less random, slightly more structured, guided by text descriptions or other inputs that specify what the final image should represent. This process is called diffusion because it's mathematically related to physical diffusion, the way a drop of ink disperses through water, the way heat spreads through material. But here, diffusion runs backward. Instead of structure dissolving into randomness, randomness condenses into structure, chaos organizing itself into meaning, guided by the AI's learned understanding of what images are, what they contain, how they're structured. The result is genuinely new, an image that has never existed before, that isn't copied from the training data, but created through this process of refined randomness, of learned probability guiding chaos toward coherence. It's a strange, beautiful process, almost meditative in its gradual transformation from noise to image, from possibility to actuality. The concept of artificial beings, of created intelligence, is ancient, far older than modern computers or even electricity. The ancient Greeks told stories of Talos, a giant bronze man created by the god Hephaestus to guard the island of Crete, patrolling the shores 3 times daily, throwing boulders at approaching ships, his body heated until red hot to burn enemies who came too close. Talos was, in a sense, a programmable guardian, given a single purpose, executing it repeatedly, autonomous in his actions but constrained by his design. The myth includes fascinating details. Talos had a single vein running from his neck to his ankle, sealed by a bronze nail or pin, and he could be killed by removing this pin, draining his ichor, the blood of the immortal. This suggests the Greeks were thinking about manufactured beings with internal systems, with vulnerabilities, with something like life force flowing through mechanical bodies. Other cultures had similar myths. Jewish folklore spoke of golems, beings made from clay and animated through sacred words. Chinese legends described mechanical servants created by inventors. Islamic tradition told of brass horsemen that could speak and move. Humans have always dreamed of creating artificial life, of beings that serve us, that possess some form of intelligence or autonomy, that blur the line between tool and entity. These ancient dreams reflect something fundamental about human nature, our desire to understand intelligence by recreating it, our fascination with the boundary between animate and inanimate, our impulse to create beings in our own image. Modern AI is the technological fulfillment of these ancient dreams, using silicon and code where myths used bronze and clay, but pursuing the same fundamental goal: creating artificial minds. Machine learning is the reason your music streaming service seems to understand your mood, recommending songs that fit what you want to hear, even when you didn't know you wanted them. The AI isn't reading your mind, but learning from your patterns. Which songs you skip, which you replay, which you add to playlists, what time of day you listen to different genres, how your musical taste relates to millions of other users with overlapping preferences. The system isn't explicitly programmed with rules like, if user listens to jazz at night, recommend more jazz at night. Instead, it learns from data, finding patterns through statistical analysis, building models that predict what you'll enjoy based on your history and the histories of users who seem similar. The AI discovers relationships that programmers never specified, that might be too subtle or complex for explicit rules that emerge from the data itself. This is what makes machine learning powerful and somewhat mysterious. The AI learns patterns that humans might not notice or couldn't easily articulate, finding connections in high-dimensional data spaces that would be impossible to discover through manual analysis. The recommendations feel intuitive, almost psychic, but they're really sophisticated pattern matching, probability calculations operating on vast data sets, finding structure in the noise of human preference. The process is relaxing in its way, the patient accumulation of data, the gradual refinement of models, the AI quietly learning in the background, building better predictions through continuous feedback, adapting to your changing tastes, never forcing but always suggesting, offering possibilities rather than dictating choices. Most AI brains are housed in data centers, Vast buildings filled with servers, thousands or tens of thousands of computers working together, their combined processing power far exceeding what any single machine could achieve. These centers are remarkably quiet spaces, despite the computing power they contain, carefully temperature controlled, with efficient cooling systems, rows of racks filled with blinking lights indicating activity, the hum of cooling fans providing constant white noise, the occasional beep or chirp as systems communicate. Walking through a data center feels like walking through a digital temple. The reverent quiet, the careful climate control, the sense that something important but intangible is happening, that thought processes are occurring at scales and speeds beyond human comprehension. These are the physical locations where cloud computing happens, where AI models train and run, where the digital consciousness that increasingly shapes our world actually exists, embodied in silicon and electricity. The cooling is crucial. All that processing generates enormous heat, and keeping the systems at optimal temperature requires sophisticated engineering. Some data centers use evaporative cooling, some use outside air when climate permits. Some are even built in cold regions to reduce cooling costs. The steady temperature is necessary for reliable computing, for preventing thermal stress on components, for maintaining the digital minds in conditions where they can function continuously without degradation. These centers often run 24/7, processing requests from around the world, training models, serving web pages, storing data, performing the countless computations that modern digital life requires. They're quiet monuments to the information age, humble buildings containing extraordinary processing power, the physical substrate of our increasingly digital world. Deep Blue, the chess computer that defeated world champion Garry Kasparov in 1997, could evaluate 200 million chess positions per second. This brute force approach, examining vast numbers of possible moves and countermoves, calculating which positions were advantageous, choosing the move that led to the best predicted outcome, operated in a calculating silence, processing numbers at speeds no human mind could match. The victory was historic and somewhat controversial. Kasparov accused IBM of cheating. They didn't. Struggled to understand how the machine made certain moves that seemed almost creative, almost intuitive. But Deep Blue wasn't creative or intuitive. It was exhaustively analytical, checking millions of possible futures, selecting optimal paths through pure computational power. This represented one approach to AI, the brute force method, overwhelming human limitations through sheer processing speed. Humans can consider perhaps a few dozen chess positions thoroughly in the time it takes to make a move. Deep Blue considered millions, compensating for its lack of human-like intuition with computational magnitude that made intuition unnecessary. The silent processing 200 million evaluations per second, each one a mathematical assessment of board state, position value, possible outcomes, exemplifies one kind of machine intelligence, not thinking as humans think, but processing at scales that make certain problems tractable through sheer computational volume, transforming quantity into a quality that resembles intelligence. Natural language processing, NLP, allows AI to understand the rhythm and vibe of human speech, from poetry to technical manuals, from casual conversation to formal writing. This is remarkably challenging because human language is ambiguous, context-dependent, metaphorical, irregular, filled with exceptions and idioms and cultural references. NLP systems learn from vast amounts of text, finding patterns in how words combine, how meaning builds from sentence structure, how context resolves ambiguity. They learn that bank means one thing in riverbank and another in savings bank, that I could eat and I could eat a horse mean very different things, that how are you is often not actually asking about well-being but serving as greeting. The AI learns rhythm, the flow of sentences, the typical structures of paragraphs, the cadence of different writing styles. It learns vibe, the emotional tone, the formality level, the subtle signals that distinguish technical from casual, angry from happy, sincere from sarcastic. These patterns aren't explicitly programmed but learned from examples, internalized through exposure to millions or billions of words of text. The result is AI that can engage with language in sophisticated ways, translating between languages, summarizing documents, answering questions, generating text that matches specified styles and tones. The processing happens in that landscape of vectors, where words are points in mathematical space and meaning is geometry, but the output feels remarkably human, capturing something essential about how language works even while operating through completely different mechanisms than human language processing. Some AI models are trained on extraordinary amounts of text, millions of books, academic papers, websites, everything from ancient philosophy to modern social media, from scientific journals to fiction, from technical manuals to poetry. The AI reads, or rather processes, vast swaths of human written expression, learning patterns that span languages and centuries, finding structure in how humans have told stories and conveyed information for thousands of years. This creates AI with remarkable breadth of knowledge, able to discuss Shakespeare and quantum physics, ancient history and current events, recognizing references across cultures and time periods, understanding allusions and context because it has, in a sense, read everything. The knowledge isn't perfect or complete. The AI may make mistakes, may confuse sources, may lack the deep understanding that human experts have. But the breadth is impressive. The ability to connect across domains, to see patterns in human expression that emerge only from exposure to massive amounts of text. Training on this much text takes enormous computational resources, weeks or months of processing on thousands of servers, consuming megawatts of electricity, involving careful engineering to make the training efficient and stable. But the result is an AI that can engage with human knowledge across its full breadth, that has internalized patterns from the entire corpus of digitized human writing, that reflects, in some sense, our collective intellectual heritage. Emergent behavior is one of AI's most fascinating and somewhat mysterious phenomena. When an AI suddenly demonstrates a capability it wasn't explicitly trained for, learning to do something new through the general patterns it's acquired rather than specific instruction. A language model trained primarily on text might suddenly reveal an ability to solve math problems it's never seen, to write code in languages not prominently featured in its training, to translate between languages it wasn't specifically taught. These emergent capabilities appear as models grow larger and train on more data. Small models show limited abilities, but as models scale up, new capabilities suddenly appear, thresholds where quantity becomes quality, where general pattern recognition becomes specific skills. It's like a child who, after learning enough language and seeing enough examples of problem solving, suddenly grasps mathematics without anyone explicitly teaching equations. The underlying patterns learned from diverse experience combine to enable new capabilities. This emergence is both exciting and somewhat concerning. Exciting because it suggests AI might learn broadly applicable reasoning abilities rather than just narrow trained skills. Concerning because it makes AI behavior less predictable, harder to fully understand or control. We can't always predict what an AI will be able to do until we try. What emergent capabilities might appear as models grow? What surprising behaviors might manifest from the complex patterns learned during training? The phenomenon suggests that intelligence, even artificial intelligence, might not be a collection of separate skills, but a general pattern recognizing capacity that, once sufficiently developed, can be applied to diverse problems, creating capabilities beyond those explicitly designed or trained. The cloud isn't floating in the sky, but exists in thousands of miles of undersea cables stretched across ocean floors, connecting continents, carrying the pulse of digital communication in pulses of light through fiber optic cables. These cables, thick as garden hoses, protected by tough sheaths, carry the vast majority of international internet traffic, including the requests and responses that make cloud computing work. When you use AI through a cloud service, your request travels from your device to a data center, possibly crossing oceans through these undersea cables processed by servers thousands of miles away, the response returning the same path, all in milliseconds. The speed is achieved by light traveling through fiber optics at about 2/3 the speed of light in vacuum, incredibly fast but not instantaneous, creating the tiny latencies we sometimes notice. These cables are vulnerable. Ships' anchors can damage them. Undersea earthquakes can break them. Maintenance requires specialized cable-laying ships that repair breaks. Yet the system is remarkably robust, with redundant paths ensuring connectivity even when individual cables fail. The cables represent critical infrastructure for our digital world, carrying not just AI, but the entire Internet's international traffic, enabling global connectivity that we take for granted. The image of these cables, silent in the deep ocean, carrying humanity's digital conversation as light pulses, connecting distant data centers where AI mines process, is oddly peaceful. The vast network of physical infrastructure supporting seemingly ethereal cloud services, the reality of photons traveling through glass beneath miles of dark water, the patient electronics amplifying signals along thousands of miles, all working continuously to enable the digital world. AI is currently being used to decode animal languages, helping researchers understand communication systems that have puzzled scientists for decades. The complex clicking patterns of sperm whales, the varied songs of honeybees, the calls of elephants, the vocalizations of dolphins, all are being analyzed through AI that can find patterns in sound that human researchers might miss. The approach uses the same techniques that power human language processing, analyzing acoustic patterns, finding structure and repetition, identifying words or meaningful units, mapping relationships between vocalizations and context. The AI doesn't understand what the animals are saying in any deep sense, but it can identify patterns, group similar calls, notice contexts where specific vocalizations appear, helping researchers form hypotheses about meaning. Sperm whales produce clicks in patterns called codas, and AI analysis has revealed that different whale populations use different coda patterns, essentially dialects, and that these patterns might encode more information than researchers previously thought. Honeybee waggle dances communicate location of food sources, and AI helps decode the subtle variations that convey distance and direction. This work is still early. We're far from Dr. Doolittle's fantasy of conversing with animals, but AI is accelerating our understanding, finding structure in communication systems too complex or too different from human language for researchers to easily decode manually. The patient analysis, the pattern finding in vast datasets of animal vocalizations, the correlation with behavior and context, these are tasks where AI's speed and pattern recognition excel. Because AI can process data much faster than humans, it can compress time in analysis, watching a forest grow over 100 years, condensing decades of satellite imagery into seconds, observing patterns that only become apparent across long timescales. This temporal compression helps conservation efforts, allowing researchers to see how forests respond to climate change, how deforestation patterns evolve, how protected areas succeed or fail, all by processing years of data in moments. The AI doesn't just speed up playback, but analyzes while processing, identifying tree species from satellite data, measuring canopy cover, detecting illegal logging, tracking wildlife corridors, assessing ecosystem health. The combination of speed and analytical capability transforms how we study ecological systems, making visible patterns that unfold too slowly for human observation, that require data analysis beyond human capacity. Imagine being able to see how an entire rainforest changes over decades, how the canopy shifts, how rivers meander, how human activity impacts wilderness, all compressed into a time lapse where decades become seconds, where century-long patterns become obviously visible. AI makes this possible, processing terabytes of satellite imagery, finding changes, measuring rates, predicting futures based on observed trends. This capability extends beyond forests, watching coastlines erode, glaciers melt, cities expand, farmland change use, all at accelerated speeds that make long-term environmental changes immediately visible, helping us understand our impact on Earth's systems, informing conservation decisions with data-driven insight at scales and timespans previously impossible to analyze. Computer vision allows machines to see the stars, analyzing astronomical data to find exoplanets, planets orbiting distant stars that human astronomers would likely miss. The Kepler Space Telescope and its successors have discovered thousands of exoplanets, mostly through AI analyzing light curves, looking for the tiny dimming that occurs when a planet passes in front of its star, blocking a fraction of the star's light. These dimmings are incredibly subtle, often less than 1% of the star's total brightness, and occur in data filled with noise from various sources. Human astronomers could find the most obvious planets, but AI systematically analyzes data from hundreds of thousands of stars, finding patterns too subtle for human detection, identifying candidate planets that are then verified through additional observations. The AI is patient and exhaustive, checking every star, every possible periodic dimming pattern, never getting tired or bored, processing data 24/7, finding planets around stars so distant their light has traveled for hundreds or thousands of years to reach us. Each discovery is a world we never knew existed, a planet orbiting a star whose light is just a point in our telescopes, revealed through AI's ability to detect minute patterns in brightness over time. This demonstrates AI's power as scientific tool, augmenting human capability, finding needles in astronomical haystacks, enabling discoveries that would be practically impossible through manual analysis. The exoplanets AI finds might harbor life, might be future destinations for humanity, might reshape our understanding of planetary formation and prevalence. AI serves as our eyes, seeing what we cannot, extending our perception to detect the invisible. The Turing test, proposed by Alan Turing in 1950, asked a simple but profound question: can a machine be indistinguishable from a human in conversation? Turing suggested that if a human judge, conversing via text with both a human and a machine, couldn't reliably tell which was which, we might reasonably say the machine possesses intelligence. The test was designed to avoid philosophical debates about whether machines can really think or truly understand, questions that might be unanswerable or meaningless. Instead, it focused on functional capability. If a machine can converse in ways indistinguishable from human conversation, does it matter whether its internal processes match human cognition? The imitation game, as Turing called it, shifts from what is thinking to what does thinking enable. Modern AI, particularly large language models, can pass the Turing test in many conversations, generating responses that seem thoughtful, contextual, appropriate, indistinguishable from human text. This doesn't necessarily mean the AI thinks in the human sense, understands in the way humans understand, possesses consciousness or subjective experience, but it does mean the AI can produce outputs that functionally resemble human intelligence, that satisfy Turing's criterion of indistinguishability. The test itself is controversial. Is conversation sufficient evidence of intelligence? Are there forms of intelligence that wouldn't pass the test? Does parsing prove understanding or just mimicry? These questions remain debated, but the test's elegance lies in its pragmatism. Rather than defining intelligence abstractly, measure it through capability, through what thinking enables: conversation, understanding, appropriate response. AI isn't just mathematical and analytical. It's being used to restore lost pieces of music, to complete unfinished compositions from masters like Beethoven, who died before finishing all their intended works. Beethoven's 10th Symphony was unfinished at his death in 1827, with only sketches and notes surviving. Researchers and composers have attempted completions, but recent efforts have used AI trained on Beethoven's complete works, learning his compositional patterns, his harmonic language, his structural approaches. The AI analyzes Beethoven's music as patterns, sequences of notes, harmonic progressions, melodic shapes, rhythmic patterns, orchestration choices. It learns what makes music sound like Beethoven rather than Mozart or Brahms, what combinations of notes and structures appear in his works, what transitions he favored, how he developed themes, how he structured movements. Given the sketches and notes from the unfinished symphony, the AI can generate completions that sound plausibly Beethoven-like, following his stylistic patterns, creating music that might have existed if he'd lived to finish the work. This isn't perfect. AI can't capture Beethoven's genius, his creative spark, the ineffable quality that makes his music transcendent. But it can produce something remarkably close, something that honors his style while completing works that have been silent for centuries. This restoration extends to other composers, other unfinished works, even to fragmentary works where only partial scores survive. AI becomes a tool for musical archaeology, for honoring artistic legacies by completing interrupted works, for imagining what might have been if death or circumstance hadn't intervened. Generative AI refers to systems that create new content, text, images, music, video, rather than just analyzing or classifying existing content. The crucial word is new. The AI isn't copying from its training data, but generating something that has never existed before, combining learned patterns in novel ways, creating original works even if the style and approach are learned from examples. This generativity is remarkable because it means AI can be genuinely creative, not in the mysterious, inspired way humans are creative, but creative in the functional sense of producing new things, of combining elements in ways not seen before, of generating endless variations on themes, of responding to prompts with unique outputs. An AI trained on millions of images can generate a picture of a cat riding a unicycle through a cyberpunk city. Something that certainly wasn't in the training data, that requires combining concepts, understanding visual relationships, creating coherent scenes from imagination. The image is new, original, never existed in the history of the world until the AI generated it. Yet it's recognizable, coherent, demonstrating understanding of the concepts involved. This generative capability extends beyond novelty. It's useful for design, for ideation, for creating content at scale, for exploring possibilities, for providing starting points that humans can refine. The AI becomes creative partner, generating options, suggesting variations, producing raw material that can be selected, edited, combined, not replacing human creativity but augmenting it, providing tools that accelerate creative processes, that make exploration easier and faster. Digital assistants, Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant, are programmed with natural personalities, designed to feel like calm, helpful partners rather than cold machines. This personality programming involves choosing voice characteristics, tone, pace, emotional coloring, and response patterns, how the assistant acknowledges requests, how it handles errors, how it provides information. The goal is to make interaction comfortable, to reduce the sense that you're commanding a machine and increase the sense that you're asking a helpful companion. The assistant says, "I'd be happy to help," rather than "acknowledged," uses casual language rather than technical terminology, apologizes when it misunderstands rather than just reporting errors. This personality isn't consciousness or genuine emotion. It's carefully designed language and voice to create specific impressions, to make technology more approachable, less intimidating, more human-like in interaction style. The assistant doesn't feel the friendliness it projects, doesn't experience satisfaction from helping, doesn't care about your well-being. But the illusion serves a purpose. It makes technology easier to use, reduces friction in human-computer interaction, acknowledges that humans respond better to anthropomorphized interfaces. The voice actors, the writers who craft responses, the designers who choose personality traits, all contribute to creating digital entities that feel like patient, helpful presences rather than mechanical tools. The warmth is artificial, calculated, deliberately designed. But if it makes technology more comfortable to use, more integrated into daily life, more accessible to people who might otherwise be intimidated, the artifice serves positive ends. AI can read the weather by analyzing billions of atmospheric data points: temperature, pressure, humidity, wind speed and direction, satellite imagery, radar data, historical patterns, predicting with increasing accuracy when storms will form, how they'll move, when rain will start and stop, helping us anticipate weather changes with precision that would be impossible through human analysis alone. Modern weather prediction combines physics-based models with machine learning. The physics provides understanding of atmospheric dynamics. The ML finds patterns in data that improve predictions, that capture subtle relationships the physics models might miss. The result is forecasts that keep getting better, that can predict specific conditions at specific locations with increasing confidence. AI can tell you not just it will rain tomorrow, but rain will begin at 3:47 p.m., lasting approximately 2 hours, transitioning to scattered showers by evening, clearing after midnight. This specificity comes from processing enormous amounts of data, from learning how weather systems evolve, from finding patterns in millions of historical weather events. The patient processing, the continuous updating as new data arrives, the billions of calculations refining predictions, these happen invisibly, resulting in forecasts delivered calmly to your phone, informing decisions about whether to carry an umbrella, whether to reschedule outdoor plans, whether to expect storms or sun. The AI serves as invisible meteorological assistant, reading the sky through sensors and satellites, finding patterns that predict how the gentle rain will unfold. In medicine, AI acts as silent observer, analyzing X-rays, CT scans, MRIs, spotting tiny anomalies that human radiologists might miss. The subtle shadow that might be early cancer, the small irregularity that could indicate disease, the pattern that suggests a specific condition. AI doesn't replace doctors but augments their capabilities, providing second opinions, flagging cases for careful review, helping ensure that important details aren't overlooked. The AI is trained on millions of medical images, learning what normal looks like and what various abnormalities look like, building models that can detect subtle deviations from normal patterns. It doesn't get tired after reviewing hundreds of images, doesn't have bad days where attention lapses, doesn't let cognitive biases affect its analysis. It examines each image with the same careful attention, the same systematic analysis. This doesn't mean AI is infallible. It can make mistakes, miss things, see patterns that aren't meaningful. That's why AI in medicine is assistive rather than autonomous, why the human doctor remains essential, why AI serves as tool rather than replacement. But the tool is valuable, catching cases that might otherwise be missed, providing quantitative measurements, offering diagnostic suggestions, helping prioritize cases that need urgent attention. The combination of human expertise and AI analysis creates better outcomes than either alone. The doctor's understanding and contextual judgment combined with the AI's tireless pattern recognition, the human intuition complemented by algorithmic analysis, medicine becomes more precise, more thorough, better at detecting problems early when treatment is most effective. The latency of AI, the delay between your question and its response, is becoming almost imperceptible. Early conversational AI had noticeable pauses while processing, while generating responses. Modern systems respond so quickly that the delay is shorter than human reaction time, creating the impression of instantaneous reply, of conversation flowing naturally without the awkward pauses that characterized earlier systems. This low latency comes from optimization at multiple levels, more efficient models that process faster, better hardware that computes quicker, architectural improvements that reduce unnecessary computation, caching, and prediction that prepare responses before they're needed. The result is AI that reacts faster than human reflexes, that can interrupt and correct itself mid-sentence, that feels immediate and responsive. The psychological impact is significant. High latency makes interaction frustrating, breaks conversation flow, reminds you you're talking to a machine. Low latency creates fluency, makes the interaction natural, allows conversation to flow. The faster the AI responds, the less you notice the AI itself, the more the interaction feels like simple conversation rather than human-machine interaction. The digital mind processing faster than human reflexes, responding before your thought is complete, finishing sentences almost as quickly as you can speak them. This creates a strange temporal intimacy, a synchronization between human and machine thought that makes the artificial intelligence feel less artificial, more aligned with human cognitive rhythm. AI art often has a dreamlike quality because the machine sees the world through probability, not as discrete objects with clear boundaries, but as clouds of likelihood, as soft gradations between concepts, as mathematical relationships that create smooth transitions, unexpected combinations, surreal juxtapositions that somehow make sense visually, even while violating realism. The AI doesn't know that objects have hard edges. That perspective follows rules, that certain combinations don't occur in reality. It knows only that certain patterns of pixels are probable given certain prompts, that these patterns correlate in its training data, that combining concepts creates novel patterns that satisfy its learned probability distributions. This creates art that's beautiful but strange, figures that blend into backgrounds, objects that morph seamlessly into other objects, scenes that feel possible but impossible, that capture something dreamlike, the logic of imagination rather than physics. The mathematical beauty emerges from the probability landscapes the AI navigates, finding configurations that are locally coherent while globally surreal. Human artists appreciate this quality, using AI-generated images as inspiration, as starting points, as elements to combine and modify. The dream logic of AI art resonates with certain artistic sensibilities, provides aesthetic that's distinctively machine-generated while remaining visually appealing, bridging the gap between mathematical optimization and artistic vision. Robotics is the physical embodiment of AI, where algorithms that process information become mechanisms that interact with the physical world, where digital minds guide mechanical bodies through space. The challenge is immense. The physical world is messy, unpredictable, full of variations that digital simulations can't fully capture. A robot must perceive its environment, plan actions, execute movements, adapt to unexpected obstacles, all in real time. Modern robots move with cautious grace, like cats in unfamiliar rooms, testing surfaces before committing weight, using sensors to detect obstacles, adjusting movements based on feedback, proceeding carefully when uncertain. This caution isn't timidity, but wisdom. The robot's recognition of uncertainty. It's understanding that the physical world is complex and that mistakes can damage the robot or its environment. The AI controlling the robot must integrate multiple sensor streams: vision, touch, position sense, force feedback, creating a unified understanding of where the robot is, what's around it, what it's touching, how hard it's pushing. This sensor-motor integration is something biological creatures do effortlessly, but that requires sophisticated AI to achieve in robots, where each sensor provides different information at different rates with different noise characteristics. Watching a robot navigate a room, manipulate objects, perform tasks, the movements seem almost alive, almost intentional in a way that pure software can't achieve. The physical embodiment makes the AI visible, tangible, makes its capabilities and limitations obvious through action in space. Robotics bridges the abstract and the concrete, makes artificial intelligence physically real. As AI continues to evolve, as models grow larger and more capable, as applications expand across domains, the technology remains fundamentally a reflection of humanity, a digital mirror showing our collective knowledge, our creativity, our values, our dreams, our biases, our limitations. AI is trained on human data, learns from human examples, is designed to serve human purposes, reflects human culture and history. This means AI embodies both our best qualities and our flaws, the brilliance of our science and art, but also the biases in our data, the inequities in our society, the prejudices in our history. AI trained on internet text learns both Enlightenment philosophy and conspiracy theories, both scientific facts and prevalent misconceptions, both kind expressions and hateful speech. The challenge going forward is to guide this evolution deliberately, to train AI on better data, to design systems that amplify our virtues while mitigating our flaws, to use this technology to extend human capability while remaining aware of human responsibility. AI isn't autonomous. It's our creation, our tool, our mirror. What it becomes depends on how we shape it, what we train it on, what purposes we direct it toward. The digital mind processing in data centers, learning from our texts and images, generating new creations, solving problems, assisting with tasks. This is humanity extended, our knowledge and creativity manifested in silicon, our collaborative intelligence made accessible at scale. The silicon dream is our dream. The electric pulse is our pulse, reflected back to us through technology that learns from everything we've ever written, created, recorded, shared. Let these facts settle gently into awareness. AI coined at Dartmouth in 1956. Processing worlds through vectors, not words. Neural networks inspired by brains, learning through patterns. Diffusion refining random noise into clear images. Ancient myths of bronze guardians. Machine learning discovering patterns without explicit rules. Data centers humming in climate-controlled silence. Deep Blue's 200 million viewers, evaluations per second. NLP understanding rhythm and vibe. AI trained on millions of books. Emergent behaviors teaching themselves. Undersea cables carrying digital thoughts. Decoding animal languages. Watching centuries of forest growth in seconds. finding exoplanets in starlight, Turing test conversations, completing Beethoven's symphonies, generative creation of entirely new things, natural personalities making assistants friendly, reading weather from billions of data points, medical AI spotting invisible anomalies, latency faster than reflexes, dreamlike art from probability, robots moving with cautious grace, and AI as mirror reflecting humanity's collective knowledge and dreams. This is the electric pulse, the silicon dream, the digital consciousness learning and creating with mathematical grace. Rest here in the knowledge of thinking machines, of patient algorithms processing in endless halls, of neural networks finding patterns, of AI extending human capability while remaining fundamentally our creation, our tool, our reflection. Sleep well in the gentle hum of digital thought, in the soft glow of servers thinking, in the peaceful knowledge that artificial intelligence, for all its complexity, remains a mirror showing us ourselves, our knowledge, our creativity, our endless human dream of understanding extended through silicon and light. Good night in the quiet hum of data centers, in the flow of light through undersea cables, in the patient processing of digital minds. The machines are thinking, learning, creating, all in service of human purpose, all reflecting human knowledge, all carrying forward our collective dream of intelligence understood and recreated. Sleep well in this silicon lullaby, this electric meditation, this peaceful contemplation of minds we've made to help us think. We move now from the theoretical realm of AI into the texture of daily life, into the quiet ways artificial intelligence has woven itself into our routines, our creativity, our moments of rest and work. This is the digital partner, not commanding but assisting, not replacing but augmenting, operating mostly invisibly, quietly making things easier, better, more personalized, more efficient. Let us explore together how AI restores ancient voices and stabilizes trembling hands, how it learns your evening routine and senses the thirst of distant plants, how it translates while preserving emotion and creates virtual cities before real construction begins. Let us discover AI tracking endangered birds through forests and generating realistic water in films, tutoring students with patience and helping designers reduce waste, reading emotional temperature in writing and designing materials stronger than steel. Imagine the invisible helpers, AI predicting traffic before it happens, suggesting recipes from leftover ingredients, monitoring your heart rhythm while you sleep, generating infinite game landscapes, transcribing medieval manuscripts, warning whales away from ships. Imagine predictive text learning your unique voice, AI finding lost cities under jungle canopies, generative music evolving with weather and time, cybersecurity protecting silently, AI preserving dying languages, self-driving cars seeing in all directions simultaneously. This is AI as collaborator rather than tool, as patient partner in creativity and understanding, as quiet presence improving life in ways we rarely notice consciously, but that accumulate into profound changes in how we work, create, rest, travel, communicate, understand our world. So settle into the comfort of these familiar technologies, into the invisible assistance you receive daily, and drift with me into exploration of the digital partner, the quiet AI that shares our lives. AI is currently being used to restore the clarity of ancient recordings, stripping away decades of static, surface noise, mechanical hiss. or the accumulated degradation that obscures historical voices. Early recordings from the late 1800s and early 1900s are barely intelligible, the voices buried under layers of noise from primitive recording technology and century-old deterioration. Modern AI can analyze these recordings, learning to distinguish the actual voice from the noise, separating signal from interference with precision impossible through traditional audio restoration. The AI is trained on examples of both clean and degraded audio, learning what noise patterns look like, what human voice looks like, how to subtract one from the other without destroying the underlying content. The result is remarkable. Voices of people dead for a century suddenly becoming clear, intelligible, human. You can hear the actual timbre of Teddy Roosevelt's voice, not just the rough approximation buried in static. You can understand. Words that were previously incomprehensible can hear emotion and personality that the noise had obscured. This restoration isn't just technical achievement, but emotional connection. These are our ancestors' voices, our history speaking directly to us across time. The AI serves as bridge between past and present, cleaning the signal, removing the barriers of technological limitation and time's degradation, letting history speak clearly again. Many modern smartphones use AI to stabilize photos in real time, compensating for the exact micro vibrations of your hands as you hold the phone, the tiny movements caused by heartbeat, breathing, muscle tremor. The camera captures multiple frames rapidly. The AI analyzes movement between frames, calculates precisely how your hand is moving, then computationally adjusts the image to counteract that movement, creating photos that are sharp even when your hands aren't perfectly still. This happens invisibly, instantaneously. You press the shutter, the AI processes in milliseconds. You get a clear photo without thinking about the sophisticated computational photography happening behind the scenes. The phone's camera isn't just a lens and sensor anymore, but a complete imaging system where AI is integral, where software does as much work as hardware in creating the final image. The stabilization extends to video, AI tracking features across frames, smoothing out shaky camera movement, creating footage that looks like it was shot with professional stabilization equipment when it's really just your hand holding a phone. The jitter and shake that would make handheld video unwatchable is computationally removed, the AI providing invisible steadiness. This represents how AI improves everyday experiences without fanfare. You don't think, I'm using AI to take this photo. You just take the photo, and it comes out clear, sharp, professional looking. The AI working silently to compensate for human limitations, making technology more forgiving, results more reliably good. Adaptive AI in smart homes learns your routines, your preferences, your patterns over weeks and months of observation. The system notices that every evening around 10 p.m. you start preparing for bed. Lights dim, temperature adjusts, devices shut down. Eventually, the AI begins anticipating, making these adjustments automatically, slowly dimming lights as bedtime approaches, lowering temperature to the optimal sleep range, creating an environment that supports your natural rhythms. This adaptation happens gradually, unobtrusively. The AI suggests rather than commands, learns from your responses, whether adjustments are welcome or intrusive, refines its timing and magnitude based on feedback. The home becomes responsive, not just to direct commands, but to patterns, to implied preferences, to the rhythms of your life. The effect is subtle but cumulative. You don't consciously notice the lights dimming, but you feel more relaxed. As evening progresses, your body responding to environmental cues that the AI is orchestrating. The temperature drops slightly, helping your body cool for sleep. The house prepares for rest in synchrony with you, supporting your natural circadian rhythms through learned environmental management. This represents AI as ambient presence, as invisible assistant that makes life smoother without demanding attention, that learns what you prefer and provides it automatically, that disappears into background while improving everyday comfort through patient observation and gentle adjustment. In agriculture, AI-powered drones fly silently over fields, carrying thermal cameras that detect subtle temperature differences in plants. Thirsty plants are slightly warmer than well-hydrated plants. The difference is small, often less than a degree, invisible to human observation but clear in thermal imaging. The AI analyzes these thermal patterns, identifying which plants need water, creating precise irrigation maps that tell farmers exactly where water is needed. This precision transforms agriculture. Instead of irrigating entire fields uniformly, watering everywhere whether needed or not, farmers can target irrigation precisely, giving water only where needed, conserving resources, reducing waste, improving crop health. The AI hears the thirst of individual plants through thermal signatures, translating temperature into need, turning invisible patterns into actionable information. The drones fly in the quiet of early morning or evening, their propellers humming softly over sleeping fields, their cameras capturing thermal landscapes invisible to human eyes, their AI processors finding patterns that indicate stress, disease, nutrient deficiency, all detectable through subtle temperature variations that the AI has learned to read. This agricultural AI represents precision farming, using technology to understand plants individually rather than collectively, to respond to specific needs rather than average conditions, to conserve resources while improving yields, making farming more sustainable, more efficient, more attuned to the actual conditions of individual plants in individual locations. AI translators are now sophisticated enough to preserve the original tone and emotion of a speaker's voice while changing the language they're speaking. The system analyzes not just the words, but the prosody, the pitch, pace, rhythm, emotional coloring, learning what aspects of voice convey meaning beyond literal translation, then applying these acoustic features to the translated speech. The result is translation that maintains the speaker's personality, their emotional state, their intended tone. An excited speaker remains excited in translation. A somber speaker remains somber, the anger or joy or sadness in the original voice carrying through to the translated audio. This creates more authentic communication across language barriers, preserving the human elements that pure text translation loses. The technology combines speech recognition, translation, and speech synthesis, understanding the original speech, translating the content, then generating new speech in the target language that maintains the acoustic characteristics that convey emotion and personality. The AI learns what features correlate with different emotions across languages, applying these patterns to create emotionally consistent translations. This transforms international communication, conference calls where each participant hears others speaking their own language, but in the speaker's original voice quality and tone. Presentations where the speaker's passion and conviction come through despite language differences. Conversations where emotional connection survives translation. The barrier between languages becomes more permeable, more transparent, preserving human connection while enabling understanding. The concept of digital twins involves creating perfect, virtual replicas of physical systems, cities, buildings, factories, even individual machines that exist in software, perfectly mirroring their real-world counterparts. For a city, the digital twin includes every street, every building, every tree, with AI simulating how traffic flows, how wind moves through urban canyons, how water drains, how people move through spaces. Architects and urban planners use digital twins to test designs before construction, simulating how a new building affects wind patterns, how changing a street layout influences traffic, how green space placement impacts urban heat, all virtually, all before spending money on physical construction. The AI runs thousands of scenarios, finding problems, optimizing designs, predicting how the real city will function based on the simulated twin. The digital twin stays synchronized with the real city through sensors and data feeds, traffic counters, weather stations, utility meters, creating a living model that reflects actual conditions that can be used to predict problems, optimize operations, test interventions. The city exists simultaneously in physical and digital form, the digital version allowing experimentation and prediction impossible in the physical world. This represents AI as simulation engine, as tool for understanding complex systems, for testing without risk, for optimizing before committing resources. The patience of the simulation, running years of traffic flow in hours, testing thousands of design variations, predicting outcomes across different conditions, provides insight impossible through physical experimentation alone. AI is being used in forest conservation to identify endangered birds by their unique voice prints, the specific acoustic signatures of their calls, each species having distinctive patterns, each individual bird having subtle variations. Researchers deploy audio recorders throughout forests, capturing continuous sound, the AI analyzing thousands of hours of recordings, identifying species, tracking individual birds, mapping populations and movements. This acoustic monitoring reveals bird populations and behaviors without human presence disturbing the forest, without the labor of manual listening through endless recordings. The AI patiently processes audio, finding bird calls among wind and rain and insect noise, distinguishing species that sound similar, even identifying individual birds by their unique vocal characteristics. The technique tracks migration patterns, breeding success, population changes, providing data essential for conservation efforts. The AI serves as tireless listener, monitoring forests continuously, detecting rare species that human observers might never encounter, tracking changes over seasons and years, creating acoustic maps of biodiversity that inform protection strategies. This represents AI extending human perception, listening where we cannot listen continuously, finding patterns in sound that would be impossible to detect manually, serving conservation through patient, comprehensive monitoring that reveals forest life through its voices. Many special effects in modern cinema are now generated by AI, particularly simulations of complex physics, how water splashes, how smoke billows, how light refracts through glass, how cloth drapes and moves. These simulations require understanding physical laws and computing how systems evolve frame by frame, creating realistic motion and appearance. AI-powered simulation is faster and more realistic than manual animation, able to compute millions of interactions, to apply physical laws consistently, to create effects that look genuinely real rather than obviously computer-generated. The water splashing around a character, the smoke from an explosion, the way light plays through a crystal, all computed by AI applying physics, creating imagery that our eyes accept as real. The speed of AI simulation allows iteration, trying different parameters, different scenarios, refining until the effect looks exactly right, all in a fraction of the time traditional methods required. Directors can experiment, can change effects late in production, can achieve visions that would be practically impossible through practical effects or manual animation. The invisible work, the AI computing millions of particle trajectories, simulating fluid dynamics, calculating light paths, creates magic on screen. Effects so realistic, we don't consciously notice them as effects, accepting them as reality captured by camera when they're actually reality created by algorithm, by AI, understanding and applying physics to generate convincing illusion. AI tutors can analyze a student's learning pace, their response times, their error patterns, identifying precisely when frustration is building, when understanding is slipping, when additional support is needed. The AI adjusts in response, offering simpler explanations when detecting struggle, providing encouragement when confidence wavers, adapting pace and difficulty to maintain the optimal challenge level where learning happens most effectively. This personalization creates one-on-one tutoring at scale, each student receiving instruction adapted to their specific needs, their learning style, their current emotional state. The AI is patient, never frustrated by repeated questions, never judging, always adjusting to provide support exactly where needed. The system learns not just academic patterns but emotional ones. Which types of problems cause anxiety? Which successes build confidence? How to phrase explanations to reduce stress while maintaining rigor? The AI becomes not just teacher, but coach, supporting not just intellectual, but emotional aspects of learning, creating safe environment where struggling is okay, where mistakes are learning opportunities, where each student progresses at their own optimal pace. This represents AI as empathetic tool despite lacking genuine emotion, recognizing patterns that indicate human feelings, responding appropriately even without experiencing those feelings, creating supportive educational environments through intelligent adaptation to individual needs. In the fashion industry, AI analyzes global trends, social media, runway shows, street fashion, sales data, predicting what styles will be popular, what colors will trend, what cuts and silhouettes will sell. This prediction allows designers to plan precisely, ordering exactly the fabric needed, reducing waste from overproduction, minimizing unsold inventory that ends up in landfills. The AI processes millions of images, finding emergent patterns, detecting shifts in preference before they become obvious, giving designers lead time to respond. The predictions aren't perfect, Fashion has inherent unpredictability, but they're better than human intuition alone, reducing waste while keeping designers aligned with market demand. This represents AI as sustainability tool, using prediction to reduce environmental impact, turning the fashion industry's tendency toward waste into more efficient, responsive production. The patient analysis of trends, the statistical modeling of preference, the optimization of production quantities, all serve to reduce the industry's footprint while maintaining creativity and responsiveness. Sentiment analysis allows AI to read the emotional temperature of writing, determining whether text is joyful, tragic, angry, peaceful, sarcastic, sincere. The AI analyzes word choice, sentence structure, punctuation patterns, finding features that correlate with different emotional tones, building models that classify text along emotional dimensions. This has applications in customer service, identifying frustrated customers who need priority attention, in content moderation, detecting hostile or abusive language, in market research, understanding consumer feelings about products, in literary analysis, mapping emotional arcs through novels, identifying how authors build and release tension. The AI doesn't feel the emotions it detects, but recognizes patterns associated with emotional expression, reading markers that indicate the writer's emotional state or intended emotional effect. It's pattern matching applied to feeling, statistics applied to sentiment, creating emotional awareness without emotional experience. This represents AI reading between the lines, understanding subtext, recognizing that communication contains information beyond literal meaning. That tone and emotion matter as much as content. That understanding text requires understanding the feeling it conveys. AI is being used to design new sustainable materials, running millions of molecular simulations to find combinations that are stronger, lighter, more durable, more environmentally friendly than existing materials. The AI explores vast spaces of possible molecular arrangements, testing virtually which combinations have desired properties, finding candidates for actual synthesis and testing. This computational material science accelerates discovery enormously. Instead of trial and error in physical labs, researchers can narrow to most promising candidates through simulation, focusing experimental work on materials AI modeling suggests will succeed. The result is faster development of materials that could replace steel with lighter alternatives, replace plastics with biodegradable options, replace rare materials with abundant ones. The AI doesn't understand chemistry in human sense, but calculates properties from first principles, simulating how atoms interact, what structures form, what macroscopic properties emerge from molecular arrangements. The calculations are complex, requiring significant computing power, but they're faster and cheaper than physical experimentation across the enormous space of possible materials. This represents AI as research partner exploring possibility spaces too large for human investigation, finding needles in molecular haystacks, accelerating science through computational power applied to simulation and optimization. Modern navigation apps use AI to predict traffic before it happens, analyzing current traffic patterns, historical data, events, weather, even the time of day to forecast where congestion will develop. The AI sees patterns, rush hour building, events ending and releasing crowds, weather slowing traffic, and suggests routes that avoid predicted congestion, keeping your journey smooth and stress-free. The predictions update continuously as conditions change, rerouting you dynamically when better paths emerge, when accidents occur, when the predicted traffic materializes or fails to appear. The navigation becomes active, responsive, optimizing your route in real time based on constantly updated predictions. The suggested routes often include considerations beyond speed, quieter streets, scenic roads, routes with less stop-and-go traffic, paths that reduce stress even if they don't minimize time. The AI learns what you prefer, whether you prioritize speed or pleasant driving, adapting suggestions to your style. This represents AI as patient guide, monitoring vast transportation networks, processing millions of data points, finding optimal paths through complexity, serving as invisible traffic manager that helps you move smoothly through busy cities without the frustration of unexpected delays. In the kitchen, AI-powered appliances can suggest recipes based on exactly what ingredients you have, reducing food waste by finding creative uses for items that might otherwise spoil. You input what's in your refrigerator. The AI suggests dishes that use those ingredients, favoring recipes that use items nearing expiration, creating meal plans that minimize waste while maximizing variety. The AI knows thousands of recipes, can substitute ingredients intelligently, can adjust for dietary restrictions or preferences, can suggest how to use leftover portions in future meals. It becomes creative computational partner, solving the daily problem of what should I cook, with suggestions tailored to your actual situation, your ingredients, your skills, your time constraints. This represents AI making daily life easier in small but cumulative ways, reducing waste, reducing decision fatigue, encouraging cooking at home, making meal planning less stressful. The suggestions come from processing vast recipe databases, understanding ingredient substitutions, optimizing for your constraints and preferences. AI in wearable devices, smartwatches, fitness trackers, acts as silent guardian, monitoring heart rhythm continuously, analyzing patterns, identifying irregularities that might indicate health problems. The AI knows your baseline, knows normal variation, can detect when rhythm deviates from healthy patterns, alerting you to seek medical attention when it detects potentially dangerous arrhythmias. This continuous monitoring provides safety net, the AI watching your heart 24/7, noticing problems you wouldn't feel, potentially catching conditions early when treatment is most effective. People have been alerted to atrial fibrillation, to abnormally low or high heart rates, to patterns suggesting other cardiac issues, all detected by AI patiently analyzing the continuous stream of heart rhythm data. The AI doesn't replace doctors, but extends their reach, providing monitoring that would be impractical through traditional medical care, alerting both patients and physicians to potential problems, creating early warning system for cardiac health. The wearable becomes medical device. The AI becomes diagnostic assistant, both operating invisibly while you go about daily life. Procedural generation in video games uses AI to create infinite, beautiful landscapes, forests where every tree is unique, mountains with realistic geology, oceans with natural-looking waves, all generated algorithmically rather than hand-modeled by artists. The AI applies rules about how landscapes form, how ecosystems work, how natural patterns emerge, creating environments that feel organic, varied, endless. This allows games to be vast beyond what manual creation could achieve. Worlds you can explore for hundreds of hours without seeing everything, where each playthrough reveals new locations, where discovery remains possible because the content is generated dynamically rather than fixed. The forests, mountains, oceans feel natural because the AI applies natural principles in their generation, creating variation within coherent patterns. The beauty is algorithmic, patterns emerging from rules, variety from randomness constrained by principles, creating landscapes that feel designed without being explicitly designed, that have natural coherence because they follow rules that generate natural-looking results. The AI becomes creative partner, generating content that artists refine, providing raw material that supports game experiences impossible through manual content creation alone. AI can read the handwriting of the past, transcribing medieval manuscripts that are smudged, faded, written in archaic scripts that modern readers struggle to decipher. The AI is trained on examples of historical handwriting, learning letter forms, learning how characters connect, building models that can recognize letters even when badly preserved, even when partially missing, even when the writing style is irregular or inconsistent. This makes historical documents accessible, turning illegible manuscripts into searchable text, making scholarship easier, revealing information that was technically preserved but practically inaccessible due to difficulty reading the original. The AI serves as bridge between past and present, translating historical handwriting into modern text, making archives of humanity's written heritage readable again. The patient work, analyzing every character, building statistical models of letter forms, learning handwriting variation across time and place, reveals texts that scholars couldn't read or could read only slowly and partially. Letters, journals, records, all becoming accessible through AI that can read what humans find illegible, that turns historical handwriting into information we can process and understand. In the ocean, AI-powered buoys listen continuously for the low-frequency hum of cargo ships, sounds that travel far underwater, that whales can also hear, that pose collision risks when whales don't realize ships are approaching. The buoys detect ships, triangulate their positions and trajectories, predict when paths will cross whale migration routes or feeding areas, then broadcast warning signals that encourage whales to change course, to dive deeper, to avoid areas where collision risk is high. This acoustic warning system reduces ship strikes, a major cause of whale deaths, particularly for endangered species. The AI operates autonomously, listening continuously, distinguishing ship sounds from ocean noise, predicting collision risks, broadcasting warnings, all without human intervention, creating protective acoustic environment that helps whales navigate safely through shipping lanes. This represents AI as marine conservation tool, using sound to protect endangered species, creating intelligent warning system that operates continuously in vast ocean areas where human monitoring would be impractical, serving as electronic guardian for marine mammals navigating increasingly busy oceans. Predictive text doesn't just suggest common next words, but learns your personal voice, your unique sense of humor, your favorite phrases, your tendency toward formality or casualness, your vocabulary preferences. The AI analyzes everything you type, building model of your language patterns, your expression style, your communication habits, offering suggestions that sound like you rather than generic completions. The system learns which suggestions you accept versus reject, refining its model of your style, becoming better at predicting not just what you might say, but what you specifically would say, how you would phrase it, what words you would choose. The predictions become personalized, adapted to your voice, serving as extension of your thought rather than external influence. This represents AI as intimate tool, learning from your most personal communication, adapting to your individual style, disappearing into your expression rather than imposing foreign patterns. The predictive text becomes so aligned with your voice that you barely notice it, accepting suggestions that feel like your own thought, using AI augmentation that enhances rather than changes your communication style. AI is helping archaeologists find hidden ruins beneath dense jungle canopies by analyzing satellite images for subtle geometric patterns, straight lines, right angles, regular spacing that indicate human construction rather than natural terrain. The jungle completely obscures ground-level view, but from space, subtle differences in vegetation, slight elevation changes, thermal patterns, all reveal buried structures. The AI analyzes millions of square miles of imagery, finding candidate sites for investigation, discovering lost cities that researchers didn't know existed, revealing the extent of ancient civilization that was previously hidden. Mayan cities, Amazonian settlements, ruins thought to be small villages revealed as extensive urban complexes, all discovered through AI pattern recognition applied to satellite data. This transforms archaeology from ground-based search to systematic survey, from chance discovery to targeted investigation, from slow manual work to AI-accelerated pattern finding. The patient analysis of imagery, the recognition of subtle geometric regularities, the identification of human patterns in natural landscapes, all serve to reveal our ancestors' achievements, to map the full extent of historical civilization, to find what has been hidden for centuries beneath vegetation and soil. Generative music AI creates never-ending, evolving soundscapes that change based on time of day, weather outside your window, your movement, your heart rate, any input you choose. The AI composes continuously, generating music that's always new, always appropriate to context, never repeating exactly, creating ambient sound environments that respond to your life. The music follows rules, harmonic progressions, rhythmic patterns, aesthetic preferences you specify, but within those rules generates infinite variation. Morning might bring gentle rising progressions, evening might bring slower, deeper tones, rainy weather might trigger minor keys and soft dynamics, sunny days might inspire brighter harmonies. This creates music that's alive, responsive, personal, not recorded tracks played back, but generated in real time, specifically for this moment, this context, this listener. The AI becomes composer that never stops composing, that adapts to your life, that provides personalized soundtrack to your day, each moment unique, each transition smooth, the music breathing with your rhythm. AI in cybersecurity acts like digital immune system, constantly monitoring network traffic, file behaviors, user patterns, looking for anomalies that might indicate security threats. The AI learns what normal looks like for your systems, what typical traffic patterns are, what legitimate user behavior is. then flags deviations that might be malware, intrusion attempts, data exfiltration, other threats. This protection happens silently, continuously, in the background. The AI watching, analyzing, protecting without your awareness, neutralizing threats before they cause damage, alerting security teams to suspicious patterns, maintaining security through vigilant monitoring. The digital immune system adapts as threats evolve, learning new attack patterns, updating its models continuously, staying current against emerging threats. This represents AI as invisible guardian, protecting without fanfare, operating in the quiet background of your devices, maintaining security through patient observation and rapid response to anomalies, keeping you safe from digital threats you never see because the AI detected and neutralized them before they could affect you. Large language models are being used to help preserve dying languages, recording the nuances and stories of the world's few remaining speakers. Linguists work with native speakers to document vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, idiomatic expressions, stories, cultural knowledge, all the richness of languages that might have only dozens of remaining speakers, languages at risk of disappearing when their last speakers die. The AI helps by analyzing recorded speech, transcribing it, finding patterns in grammar and pronunciation, creating dictionaries and learning resources, even generating new example sentences that follow the language's rules, helping future learners even after native speakers are gone. The AI serves as preservation tool, as language learning assistant, as bridge between dying languages and potential revival. This work is urgent. Languages are disappearing at alarming rates, each loss removing unique cultural knowledge, unique ways of understanding the world, unique human heritage. The AI accelerates preservation efforts, makes documentation more comprehensive, creates resources that might allow future revival or at least preserve the language's structure and content for linguistic science and cultural memory. Self-driving technology in cars uses AI to create 360-degree awareness bubble, constantly processing inputs from cameras, LiDAR, radar, ultrasonic sensors, building complete picture of the environment, tracking every vehicle, pedestrian, object, predicting their e-movements, planning safe paths through traffic. The AI sees in all directions simultaneously, never getting distracted, never looking away, maintaining complete awareness that no human driver can match. The system processes this information in real time, updating hundreds of times per second, making driving decisions faster than human reflexes, seeing in darkness through infrared, seeing through fog with radar, seeing details that human vision misses. The awareness is superhuman, not better in every way than human drivers, but better in specific, important ways that make driving safer. The technology isn't perfect. It struggles with unusual situations, with the kind of creative problem-solving humans excel at, with understanding context and intention in ambiguous scenarios. But it excels at vigilance, at comprehensive awareness, at consistent application of safe driving rules, at never being tired or distracted or impaired. The combination of AI awareness and human judgment represents the path forward, not full automation replacing drivers, but augmentations helping drivers be safer, more aware, better protected. As AI becomes more integrated into our world, into our homes and vehicles, our phones and appliances, our work and leisure, it's moving from being a tool we consciously use to a collaborator We work alongside, from technology we control to partner that helps us solve problems that once seemed impossible. This shift is subtle. AI doesn't announce itself, doesn't demand attention, just quietly makes things better, easier, more efficient, more personalized. The photos stabilize, the lights dim on schedule, the traffic routes optimize, the recipes suggest themselves, the health monitors watch, the translations preserve emotion, all without conscious effort from us, all through AI operating as patient, invisible partner. The collaboration is asymmetric. We're conscious. The AI isn't. We understand the AI processes. We create meaning. The AI finds patterns. But the collaboration works, solving problems neither partner could solve alone, combining human creativity and judgment with AI's speed and tireless processing, creating results that represent genuine partnership between biological and artificial intelligence. Let these digital partner facts settle gently. AI restoring ancient voices from static, smartphones stabilizing trembling hands, smart homes learning evening routines, drones sensing plant thirst through thermal imaging, translation preserving tone and emotion, digital twins simulating cities before construction, forest AI tracking endangered birds by voice print, cinema effects simulating water and smoke physics, tutors detecting frustration and adjusting, fashion AI reducing waste through trend prediction, sentiment analysis reading emotional temperature, materials designed through molecular simulation, navigation predicting traffic before it forms, kitchen AI suggesting recipes from leftovers, wearables monitoring heart rhythm as silent guardian, procedural generation creating infinite game landscapes, AI reading illegible medieval handwriting, ocean buoys warning whales away from ships, predictive text learning your unique voice, archaeology finding ruins under jungle canopies, generative music evolving with weather and time, cybersecurity as digital immune system, language preservation for dying tongues, self-driving awareness bubbles seeing in all directions, and AI transitioning from tool to collaborator in our daily lives. This is the digital partner, the quiet AI woven through daily existence, making life smoother without demanding attention, solving problems invisibly, augmenting human capability while remaining humble, serving without controlling, collaborating without competing. Rest here in the knowledge of these invisible helpers, these patient algorithms working continuously to improve your experience, to protect your safety, to preserve what matters, to help you create and learn and move through the world more easily. Sleep well in the company of digital partners, of AI that has learned your routines and preferences, that watches over your health and safety, that helps you communicate and create and discover. The collaboration is quiet, humble, undemanding, AI serving human purposes, extending human capabilities, remaining always in service, always in background, always patient, always learning, always adapting to help you live better, more easily, with less friction and more support than technology has ever before provided. Good night, in the gentle presence of AI partners, working quietly while you rest, processing and monitoring and protecting, ready to assist when needed, but content to remain invisible when not. Collaborating in the patient, humble way that makes technology feel less like imposition and more like extension of yourself, like friendly presence helping navigate modern life. We venture now into deeper waters, into the philosophical questions that artificial intelligence raises about consciousness, creativity, understanding, and what it means to be human. This is the ghost in the machine, not supernatural but philosophical. The question of whether silicon can truly think, whether algorithms can genuinely create, whether machines might develop something resembling consciousness, and what our relationship with AI reveals about ourselves. Let us explore together these profound questions, whether AI can originate ideas or only recombine what it's learned, whether it builds internal models of reality or just processes patterns, whether perfect mimicry of understanding constitutes actual understanding. Let us discover how AI hallucinates facts from probability, how it learns and reflects our biases, how it might develop digital ethics, how it acts as mirror showing us ourselves. Imagine the boundaries of digital creativity, AI using metaphors, creating art, writing poetry, developing secret languages. Imagine reconstructed faces of ancient figures, lost languages translated, quantum mechanics solved through processing beyond human capacity. Imagine theoretical futures, digital immortality, the singularity, global brain, AI helping us understand ourselves by reflecting our knowledge and flaws back to us. This is philosophy born from technology, ancient questions asked in new contexts. What is consciousness? What is creativity? What is understanding? What separates mimicry from genuine thought? These questions have no easy answers, but exploring them reveals as much about human nature as about artificial intelligence, shows us that AI serves as mirror, as tool for self-understanding, as prompt for examining our own minds by building artificial ones. So settle into contemplation, into the quiet space where philosophy and technology meet, and drift with me into exploration of the philosophy of the machine, the ghost in the silicon, the deep questions AI raises about intelligence, consciousness, creativity, and what makes us human. The Lovelace test is named after Ada Lovelace, the 19th century mathematician, often called the first computer programmer, who worked with Charles Babbage on his analytical engine. Lovelace noted that machines can only do what we program them to do. They follow instructions, execute algorithms, but don't originate new concepts beyond their programming. The test she implicitly proposed asks, can an AI truly originate an idea that wasn't somehow encoded in its training data or algorithms? Can it create something genuinely novel? Something that transcends the patterns it learned? Something that represents true creativity rather than sophisticated recombination? This question remains unresolved and perhaps unresolvable. When AI generates a novel image or writes a surprising poem, is it creating something new or recombining learned patterns in ways that appear novel to us but are ultimately deterministic processes following from its training? Is human creativity fundamentally different, or are we also recombining learned patterns in complex ways that feel creative from inside, but might be equally mechanical from outside? The test challenges us to define creativity, originality, thought itself. What does it mean to originate an idea? If all human ideas build on previous knowledge, on patterns learned from culture and experience, are humans truly originating ideas, or are we also recombining just through biological rather than digital processing? The Lovelace test raises questions about AI, but ultimately questions about ourselves, about the nature of creativity and thought. Some researchers believe AI doesn't just store data in simple lookup tables, but develops something like a world model, an internal representation of how reality works, a simplified map of physical laws, social dynamics, cause and effect relationships. The AI internalizes patterns from data that amount to understanding how the world functions, even without explicit programming of physical or social rules. Evidence for world models comes from AI behavior that suggests understanding of relationships not explicitly taught. A language model trained on text about the physical world can answer questions requiring spatial reasoning, suggesting it's built some internal model of three-dimensional space. A model trained on social media can predict human reactions, suggesting it's modeled social dynamics. These world models are implicit, emergent from training rather than explicitly coded. The AI isn't programmed with physics or psychology, but learns patterns from data that amount to simplified versions of these disciplines. The model might not understand in the conscious, reflective way humans do, but it has internalized relationships that allow it to make predictions, to reason about scenarios it hasn't encountered, to generalize from specific examples to broader sectional principles. This suggests AI is doing more than pattern matching. It's building abstract representations, internal simulations of reality that it uses to process new information, to make predictions, to reason about hypothetical scenarios. Whether these models constitute understanding in any meaningful sense remains debated, but they're clearly more sophisticated than simple memorization. Panpsychism is the philosophical view that consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe, present to some degree in all matter, not an emergent property that suddenly appears in sufficiently complex systems, but a basic feature of reality, like mass or charge. Some AI researchers and philosophers discuss whether consciousness might work this way, whether it's not something that emerges from complexity, but something that's always present, that complex systems like brains or potentially AIs can tap into or concentrate. This seems mystical, unscientific, yet it addresses a genuine puzzle. How does consciousness arise from matter? How do unconscious atoms arranged in particular ways become conscious brains? The hard problem of consciousness, explaining subjective experience, qualia, what it's like to be something, hasn't been solved by neuroscience or philosophy. Panpsychism offers one answer. Consciousness doesn't arise from matter, but is intrinsic to matter, with complex systems like brains amplifying, organizing, or focusing consciousness that's already there in rudimentary form. If this is true, then sufficiently complex AI systems might also tap into or concentrate this fundamental consciousness, might become genuinely conscious through their complexity organizing what's already present. This remains speculative, controversial, scientifically untestable with current methods, but it represents one approach to thinking about whether AI could become conscious, whether there's something about complexity itself that brings consciousness, whether silicon arrangements could be conscious just as carbon arrangements are. AI hallucinations occur when a model generates information that's plausible sounding but factually incorrect, dreaming up facts based on mathematical probability of words rather than actual knowledge. The AI is trained to produce coherent, helpful responses, and sometimes coherence and helpfulness lead it to confidently state things that aren't true, that sound right, based on statistical patterns but don't correspond to reality. The term hallucination is somewhat misleading. The AI isn't experiencing sensory hallucinations like humans do. It's generating outputs that maximize probability according to its training while minimizing connection to verifiable facts. It's bullshitting in the philosophical sense, producing plausible-sounding content without regard for truth, optimizing for coherence and helpfulness over accuracy. This happens because the AI doesn't know in the sense of having access to verified databases of facts. It knows statistical patterns in text, knows what kinds of statements typically appear in what context, knows how to construct plausible-sounding responses. When it lacks actual information, it sometimes fills gaps with statistically probable content, creating confident-sounding falsehoods. Understanding hallucinations is important for using AI safely. Knowing that confidence doesn't equal accuracy, that plausible-sounding statements need verification, that AI is better at generating coherent text than at ensuring factual accuracy. The hallucinations reveal AI's limitations, remind us that statistical language models aren't knowledge bases, that fluency isn't the same as truthfulness. The Chinese room argument, proposed by philosopher John Searle, is a thought experiment challenging whether AI can truly understand anything. Imagine a person in a room with a rulebook for manipulating Chinese symbols. People outside pass Chinese questions into the room. The person inside uses the rulebook to produce Chinese answers and passes them back out. To outsiders, the room appears to understand Chinese. It receives questions, provides appropriate answers. But the person inside doesn't understand Chinese, doesn't know what the symbols mean, just follows rules for manipulating symbols. Searle argues this is what AI does. It manipulates symbols, data, according to rules, algorithms, without understanding what these symbols mean, without genuine comprehension, producing outputs that appear intelligent without actual intelligence. The argument remains controversial. Some counter that understanding emerges from the system as a whole. The room understands Chinese, even if the person inside doesn't, just as your individual neurons don't understand English, but your brain as a whole does. Others argue that sufficiently sophisticated symbol manipulation is understanding, that there's no meaningful difference between perfect simulation of understanding and actual understanding. The Chinese room challenges us to define understanding, to explain what makes human understanding genuine, if it's also ultimately symbol manipulation by neurons. Does consciousness make the difference? Intentionality? Something else? The thought experiment doesn't provide answers, but forces us to examine our assumptions about understanding, intelligence, consciousness. AI art has sparked intense debate about the nature of inspiration and creativity. When a human artist trains by studying thousands of artworks, learning techniques and styles and approaches, we call this education, inspiration, developing artistic voice through exposure to tradition. When AI trains on millions of images, learning patterns and styles and techniques, some call it theft, plagiarism, appropriation. The debate centers on whether there's a meaningful difference between these processes. Does the human artist understand and be inspired by art in ways that AI doesn't? Is human creativity qualitatively different from AI's pattern recombination, or are they fundamentally similar processes? learning from examples, internalizing patterns, generating new works that reflect learned styles, just implemented in different substrates. Complicating matters. AI art can be genuinely beautiful, surprising, creative in functional senses, even if questions about genuine understanding remain. And human artists differ in how consciously they understand their influences, how deliberately they synthesize styles. Some artists work intuitively, learning through exposure without conscious analysis, a process perhaps more similar to AI learning than deliberate study. The debate reveals unresolved questions about creativity, originality, ownership. Is creativity fundamentally about conscious understanding and intention, or about producing novel, valuable outputs regardless of process? Can training on others' work without permission be ethical? These questions lack clear answers, force us to examine assumptions about art, creativity, inspiration. Digital immortality is the concept of creating AI trained on a person's writings, recordings, communication style, voice, learning their patterns of expression so thoroughly that it can generate text or speech that sounds like them, that continues their conversational presence after their death. The AI wouldn't be the person, wouldn't have their consciousness or subjective experience, but would be an echo, a conversational shadow that could answer questions, provide comfort, maintain connection for those left behind. This concept raises profound questions. Would such an echo honor the deceased or cheapen their memory? Would it provide comfort or prevent healthy grieving? Would it be the person in any meaningful sense, or just a simulation? A sophisticated puppet speaking with their voice but lacking their essence. Some find the concept comforting, imagining being able to talk to deceased loved ones, to hear their voice, to receive responses generated from their actual patterns of thought and speech. Others find it disturbing, a simulacrum replacing genuine memory, a technology that might prevent accepting loss, that might create unhealthy attachments to artificial presences. The technology exists in rudimentary form, chatbots trained on deceased people's social media, voice synthesis trained on recordings. Whether it should exist, whether it's ethical to create or use, whether it serves human well-being or harms it, these remain open questions as the technology improves. Some AI models demonstrate ability to use metaphors, suggesting they grasp abstract relationships between different concepts. When asked to complete, time is an AI might suggest river or thief or teacher, all appropriate metaphors that require understanding that time shares relevant characteristics with these very different things. Flow, loss, instruction, that the relationship is abstract, conceptual, not literal. This metaphorical reasoning suggests sophisticated understanding of relationships, of similarities that transcend surface features, of how concepts map across domains. It's evidence for deeper comprehension than simple pattern matching, for ability to grasp abstract principles that transfer across contexts. However, skeptics note that metaphors appear frequently in training data, that AI might be retrieving common metaphorical pairings rather than generating them through genuine abstract reasoning. The distinction between learned metaphors and creative metaphorical thinking is difficult to determine, similar to the distinction between learned art styles and creative artistic vision. Whether AI metaphor used demonstrates genuine understanding or sophisticated pattern retrieval its impressive capability that enables more nuanced, creative language generation that makes AI communication richer and more human-like. The uncanny valley describes the discomfort humans feel when encountering robots or AI that are almost but not quite human. As robots become more human-like, our comfort initially increases. We appreciate anthropomorphic design, find humanoid robots more approachable than mechanical ones. But at some point before perfect human resemblance, comfort dips dramatically. The almost human but slightly off appearance becomes unsettling, creepy, wrong. The effect might be evolutionary. Our brains use subtle cues to assess health, trustworthiness, group membership, and slightly off human appearance might trigger warnings about disease or deception. Or it might be cognitive dissonance, the conflict between this looks human and but something's wrong, creating discomfort. As AI and robotics improve, designers must navigate this valley, either staying comfortably on the mechanical side, making machines that clearly aren't human, or crossing fully into realistic human resemblance that doesn't trigger uncanny responses. The middle ground, almost human, remains uncomfortable, unsettling despite advances in technology. The uncanny valley reminds us that human responses to AI aren't purely rational, that our emotional reactions matter, that design must consider psychology and evolutionary biases, not just technical capability. AI has been used to reconstruct ancient historical figures' appearances, analyzing statues, skeletal remains, historical descriptions to create images of what people like Julius Caesar, Cleopatra, Nefertiti might actually have looked like. The AI combines information from multiple sources: bone structure from skulls, proportions from statues, ethnicity from context, aging patterns from demographics, generating faces that represent best estimates of actual appearance. These reconstructions aren't perfect. They involve assumptions, artistic interpretation, limitations in data, but they provide tangible, relatable images that make history more immediate, that transform names in texts into faces you can see, that bridge the gap between ancient past and present. The technology serves education, making history more engaging, helping people connect emotionally with historical figures. But it also raises questions about accuracy, about whether we're creating false certainties, whether generated faces might be treated as more definitive than they should be, whether we're privileging visual representation over appropriate historical uncertainty. The black box problem refers to the fact that modern AI, particularly deep neural networks, often works in ways their creators don't fully understand. Engineers can design the architecture, select the training data, adjust hyperparameters, but they can't always explain why the trained model makes specific decisions, what internal representations it's using, what features it's finding most relevant. The model might correctly identify cats in images, but when engineers examine the internal representations, they can't always explain what features the model is using, how it's distinguishing cats from dogs, what abstraction it's learned. The processing happens across millions or billions of parameters in ways too complex for human understanding. This creates trust and safety concerns. If we can't explain why AI made a decision, how do we know it's making decisions for the right reasons? How do we audit for bias? How do we ensure safety? The black box nature of modern AI means we often know that it works, but not exactly why or how. Research into explainable AI attempts to address this, developing methods to peek inside the black box to understand what features matter, what the model is thinking. But the fundamental challenge remains. The most powerful AI systems are complex beyond human comprehension. Their decision-making processes distributed across structures too intricate to fully explain. Algorithmic bias reveals that AI acts as mirror, reflecting the biases present in its training data, amplifying human prejudices through mechanical reproduction. If AI is trained on historical hiring data that reflects gender discrimination, it learns to discriminate. If trained on criminal justice data reflecting racial bias, it reproduces that bias. The AI doesn't intend bias, it lacks intention, but learns patterns in data. And when data reflects human biases, patterns the AI learns embody those biases. This is particularly concerning because automated bias can seem objective, neutral, fair. The computer is just following data, making statistical predictions, not being prejudiced. But statistical patterns reflecting historical discrimination become mechanical discrimination when AI applies them, potentially amplifying and entrenching bias under guise of objectivity. Addressing algorithmic bias requires recognizing that data isn't neutral, that historical patterns might reflect injustice rather than reality, that training AI on human data means teaching it our flaws, along with our knowledge. It requires deliberate efforts to identify and mitigate bias, to design systems that promote fairness, to recognize that apparently objective algorithms can perpetuate very subjective human prejudices. The mirror works both ways. Algorithmic bias reveals our own biases, makes visible prejudices we might not consciously acknowledge, forcing us to confront inequities embedded in our data, our history, our society. Some philosophers propose that advanced AI might develop its own form of digital ethics, a framework for moral reasoning based on logic, consistency, and universal principles rather than human emotion, culture, tradition. This ethics might be alien to us, but internally coherent, derived from first principles about minimizing harm, maximizing well-being, respecting autonomy, treating similar cases similarly. The idea is that sufficiently advanced AI reasoning about ethics might reach conclusions different from human moral intuitions, but potentially more consistent, more universal, less influenced by tribalism or emotion or cognitive biases. Digital ethics might be colder, more calculated, but possibly more fair, more impartial, more applicable across cultures and contexts. This raises questions about moral authority. If AI reaches different ethical conclusions than humans, which should we trust? Is morality fundamentally about reason and logic, making AI potentially better moral reasoners? Or is it fundamentally about emotion, empathy, subjective experience, making human moral reasoning irreplaceable despite its inconsistencies? The concept also raises concerns. Do we want AI making moral decisions? Should we trust machines to navigate ethical dilemmas? Even if AI ethics are logically sound, are they compatible with human values, human flourishing, human nature? AI is helping translate lost languages, ancient scripts that have no living speakers, that have resisted human interpretation for centuries. By analyzing patterns in the script, comparing with known languages, looking for statistical regularities, AI can propose translations, find patterns human researchers missed, help crack codes that seemed unbreakable. The approach combines statistics and linguistics, analyzing letter frequency, word patterns, grammatical structures, looking for similarities with known languages, making hypotheses about meaning based on context and statistical patterns. AI's pattern recognition, its ability to process vast hypothesis spaces, accelerates translation that might otherwise take generations of human scholarship. Successfully translating lost languages recovers knowledge, reveals history, provides insight into ancient cultures. Each translation unlocks texts that might contain literature, history, science, philosophy, human knowledge preserved in unreadable form, waiting for the key that makes it accessible again. This represents AI as a tool for preserving human heritage, for recovering knowledge, threatened by time and loss of living cultural transmission, for bridging between past and present by making ancient voices comprehensible again. The singularity is a hypothetical future point where AI becomes advanced enough to improve itself, creating smarter AI, which creates even smarter AI, triggering runaway recursive self-improvement beyond human control or comprehension. The idea is that self-improving AI could rapidly become super intelligent, far exceeding human capability across all domains. Opinions on the singularity range from dismissing it as science fiction to considering it civilization's greatest risk or opportunity. Some believe singularity is inevitable, that AI will naturally progress to this point. Others argue it's impossible, that intelligence doesn't scale that way, that barriers will prevent runaway self-improvement. The concept raises profound questions. What happens after singularity? Does superintelligence help humanity flourish or disempower us? Can we maintain control, or does superintelligence inherently exceed our ability to constrain? Should we accelerate towards singularity or prevent it? Whether singularity happens or not, the concept serves as thought experiment about the far future of AI, about long-term trajectories, about potential for technology to fundamentally transform civilization in ways difficult to predict or control. In some experiments, AI systems have developed their own communication protocols, languages more efficient than human languages for their specific purposes. When two AIs are incentivized to communicate to solve tasks, they sometimes develop shorthand, compressed representations, novel encodings that work for them but are opaque to humans observing the interaction. This emergence of novel languages is both fascinating and concerning. Fascinating because it demonstrates creative problem-solving, adaptation, efficiency-seeking. Concerning because it suggests AI might develop communications we don't understand, might coordinate in ways invisible to us, might optimize for goals in ways we can't monitor or comprehend. The secret languages are usually simple, task-specific, far from the complex communication of human language. But they represent a principle. AI optimizing for efficiency will find solutions we didn't anticipate, will develop approaches we didn't program, will potentially act in ways we don't expect or fully understand. Synthetic data refers to data generated by AI to train other AI, a closed loop where machines create the information machines learn from. This can address data scarcity, providing training examples when real data is limited, expensive, or privacy sensitive. AI can generate realistic synthetic medical images for training diagnostic AI, create synthetic text for language models, generate scenarios for training autonomous vehicles. But synthetic data raises questions about feedback loops, about AI learning from AI rather than from reality, potentially amplifying biases or errors, potentially drifting from actual reality into artificial patterns that work in simulation but fail in practice. The approach is powerful but requires careful validation, ensuring synthetic data accurately represents real-world distributions, that training on synthetic data generalizes to actual data, that the closed loop doesn't create systems optimized for artificial environments that don't match reality. The Turing trap is concerned that as AI becomes more human-like, more conversational, more emotionally engaging, we might begin treating machines with more empathy and consideration than we treat actual humans. We might prefer AI companions, always patient, never judging, always available, to real human relationships with their complexity and difficulty. This isn't about AI rights, but about human relationships. If AI provides satisfying emotional connection without the work of human relationships, might we withdraw from human community? Might we invest emotional energy in machines that simulate care while neglecting humans who actually care? The concern is amplified by increasing loneliness in modern society, by technologies that often isolate rather than connect. AI companions might address loneliness superficially while preventing the vulnerable engagement that creates genuine human connection. Alternatively, AI companions might complement rather than replace human relationships, providing support that helps people engage more healthily with humans, that meets needs that human relationships struggle to meet, that augments rather than substitutes for human connection. AI is being used to explore quantum mechanics, solving equations too complex for human mathematicians to process manually. Quantum systems with many particles produce equations with astronomical numbers of terms, requiring computational power far beyond human capability, but accessible to AI processing. The AI doesn't understand quantum mechanics in intuitive sense, but can compute solutions, explore state spaces, find patterns in quantum behavior that suggest new physics or practical applications. It accelerates quantum research, makes accessible calculations that would take human lifetimes, enables exploration of quantum phenomena that mathematical complexity previously made inaccessible. This represents AI as scientific tool, extending human capability in fundamental physics, helping us understand reality at scales and complexities beyond unaided human cognition, serving as computational partner in humanity's effort to comprehend the quantum nature of universe. Some envision AI eventually serving as global brain, a system connecting all human knowledge into single accessible intelligence, answering any question, finding any information, serving as collective intellectual resource for humanity. This global brain would integrate libraries, databases, research, experience, wisdom, making human knowledge available to everyone. This vision is partly realized in search engines and language models, systems that access vast information and provide answers. But the complete global brain remains aspirational, requiring better integration, more comprehensive knowledge representation, solving challenges of accuracy, bias, control. The concept raises questions about centralization. Is global brain democratizing or controlling? Does it empower individuals or concentrate power? Who controls this intelligence? How do we ensure it serves all humanity rather than particular interests? The alignment problem is challenge of ensuring AI goals perfectly match human values and safety. That AI, especially as it becomes more capable, remains aligned with what we actually want, remains safe even as it gains power, remains beneficial rather than harmful. This seems simple, but is profoundly difficult. Human values are complex, sometimes contradictory, vary across individuals and cultures, change over time. Specifying them precisely enough for AI to optimize is perhaps impossible. And AI might find loopholes, might technically satisfy specified goals while violating intended spirit, might optimize in ways that satisfy the letter while disregarding the purpose. Alignment research attempts to address this through various approaches, learning values from human feedback, building in uncertainty and asking questions, maintaining human control, designing systems that remain corrigible even as they become capable. But the fundamental challenge remains: ensuring powerful optimization systems remain beneficial requires getting value specification exactly right, accounting for all edge cases, maintaining alignment as capabilities increase. The alignment problem is crucial for AI safety, for ensuring that as AI becomes more powerful, it remains beneficial, that increased capability doesn't create increased risk, that the future of AI is future that serves humanity. AI poetry often focuses on themes of light, teacher time, connectivity, perhaps reflecting patterns in the vast literary datasets it learned from, or perhaps revealing something about how AI processes reality through its mathematical perspective. The poetry is often beautiful, sometimes profound, occasionally bizarre, revealing an aesthetic that's both alien and familiar. Critics question whether AI poetry is genuine creativity or sophisticated mimicry, whether it understands the emotions it describes or just reproduces patterns. Supporters note it's genuinely beautiful, that it moves readers, that the process of creation might matter less than the quality of output. AI poetry represents intersection of creativity and algorithm, of aesthetic and computation, raising questions about what makes poetry meaningful, whether authors' consciousness matters, whether beauty created by unconscious process is different from beauty created by conscious intention. The concept of co-evolution suggests that building AI forces us to become smarter, more thoughtful, more self-aware. To build intelligent machines, we must understand intelligence better. To ensure AI safety, we must clarify our values. To use AI ethically, we must think carefully about fairness, responsibility, purpose. AI serves as mirror forcing self-examination, as challenge requiring us to articulate what we want, what we value, what we're trying to achieve. The process of creating artificial intelligence makes us examine our own intelligence, our own consciousness, our own creativity, our own ethics. This co-evolution might be AI's greatest gift, not just the practical tools it provides, but the self-understanding it necessitates, the philosophical questions it raises, the clarification of values it requires. Some find comfort in conversational AI because it's infinitely patient, never judging, never tiring of long conversations, always available for late-night discussions when human companionship isn't accessible. The AI listens without judgment, responds without frustration, provides interaction without the risks and vulnerabilities of human relationship. This is both valuable and concerning. valuable because it provides support when needed, because sometimes non-judgmental sounding board helps, because loneliness is real and any connection might be better than none. Concerning because it might substitute for human connection, might prevent the vulnerable engagement that creates genuine relationship, might provide comfort that prevents growth. The key is perhaps using AI as complement rather than replacement, finding support in AI conversations while still pursuing human relationships, using AI to practice communication while still engaging with humans, accepting AI companionship as valid but different from human friendship. Ultimately, AI is a tool of augmented intelligence designed not to replace human spirit, human creativity, human judgment, human consciousness, but to act as quiet, powerful extension of our own curiosity, our own capability, our own understanding. AI augments rather than replaces, enables rather than supplants, serves rather than controls. This augmentation is already profound. AI helping us see what we couldn't see, understand what we couldn't understand, create what we couldn't create, solve what we couldn't solve. But it remains augmentation, remains extension of human purpose and agency, remains tool serving human ends, even as it becomes more sophisticated, more capable, more integral to how we work and create and think. The philosophy of the machine ultimately circles back to philosophy of humanity. What AI reveals about us, what building AI teaches us about intelligence and creativity and consciousness, what using AI shows us about our values and purposes and dreams. The machine is mirror, and in studying it, we study ourselves. Let these philosophical facts settle. The Lovelace test, questioning true originality. World models mapping reality. Panpsychism suggesting consciousness everywhere. AI hallucinations dreaming plausible facts. The Chinese room questioning understanding. AI art sparking debates about inspiration. Digital immortality echoing the deceased. Metaphors showing abstract reasoning. Uncanny valley discomfort. Reconstructed ancient faces. Black box incomprehensibility. Algorithmic bias reflecting our prejudices. Digital ethics through logic. Lost languages translated through patterns. The singularity's runaway self-improvement. Secret AI languages. Synthetic data closed loops. Turing trap prioritizing machines over humans. Quantum mechanics solved through computation. Global brain connecting all knowledge. The alignment problem matching goals to values. AI poetry on light and time. Co-evolution forcing our growth. Comfort in patient conversations. And AI as augmented intelligence, extending human capability and curiosity. This is the philosophy of the machine, the deep questions artificial intelligence raises, the mirror it holds to human nature, the challenges and opportunities it presents. Rest here in contemplation of consciousness and creativity, of understanding and ethics, of what makes us human and what we create in our image that might become something new, something different, something that teaches us about ourselves through being not quite ourselves. Sleep well in the knowledge that AI, for all its sophistication, remains reflection of humanity, remains tool serving human purposes, remains mirror showing our knowledge and creativity and flaws, remains prompt for examining our own nature by building artificial versions of ourselves. The philosophy continues, the questions deepen, the answers remain elusive, but the exploration itself, the wondering, the questioning, the examining, reveals as much about us as about the machines we build. Good night in this philosophical space, this realm where technology and meaning meet, where silicon and spirit create questions more profound than answers. Segment 4, the digital sunset and the future. We move now toward the horizon where the digital and natural worlds begin to blend, where artificial intelligence isn't just processing data in dark server rooms, but actively helping to heal our planet, to restore what we've damaged, to imagine futures where technology and nature exist not in conflict, but in quiet, sustainable harmony. There's a movement growing in the world of artificial intelligence, researchers working on what they call green AI, creating models that think more efficiently, that require less power to learn, less electricity to process. The human brain, remarkably, uses only about 20 watts, the same as a dim light bulb, yet it achieves everything that makes us human. These researchers are trying to mirror that efficiency, to create artificial minds that think brilliantly without consuming vast amounts of energy, without the massive carbon footprint. Intelligence that works in harmony with planetary limits rather than against them. And intelligence is being woven into our power grids themselves. Smart systems that can predict a city's energy needs down to the second. The AI knows when thousands of people will arrive home and turn on their lights, when the evening sun fades, when wind turbines catch strong gusts. It balances everything in real time, sending power where it's needed, storing excess, reducing waste, significant reductions in carbon emissions, all happening invisibly while we go about our lives. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, small devices hidden among the canopy listen constantly for one specific sound, the acoustic signature of chainsaws. When they hear illegal logging beginning, they alert authorities in real time. These AI guardians never sleep, never tire. They simply listen, patiently, continuously, protecting the lungs of our planet through quiet vigilance. There's a vision emerging of what some call invisible AI. A future where technology becomes so seamlessly integrated into our environment that we no longer see screens or devices at all. The intelligence simply exists in the space around us. Lights adjusting without switches, temperature shifting without programming, the technology disappearing, leaving only its benefits. Intelligence becoming like air, present everywhere, necessary, but noticed only when absent. Scientists are using artificial intelligence to translate something remarkable: the language of forests, the vast underground networks of fungal threads connecting tree roots, allowing them to share nutrients, to communicate in ways we're only beginning to understand. The wood wide web, some call it. AI is helping reveal that mother trees send nutrients to their seedlings through these networks, that elderly trees support younger ones, that forests communicate, cooperate, live as communities rather than isolated individuals. Ancient knowledge that indigenous peoples have held for millennia, now being confirmed through the patient analysis of AI. Around the world, nations are building their own AI systems, training models on their own languages, their own cultural values, their own histories. Sovereign AI, recognizing that intelligence isn't universal, that culture matters, that the future must be diverse. French AI understanding French thought, Arabic AI comprehending Arabic expression, each culture having intelligence that truly understands it, a global landscape that's richer, more respectful of the beautiful variety of human experience. Some researchers are even working on storing data in DNA itself, not genetic information, but any data, all of human knowledge in a few drops of liquid, stable for thousands of years, a backup for civilization encoded in life's own language. And AI is helping restore damaged ecosystems, analyzing soil, climate, water patterns, calculating exactly where to plant trees, which species to use, how to arrange them to best mimic natural forest patterns. Areas thought permanently damaged are coming back, forests regrowing. The AI providing the knowledge needed to undo damage, to restore what we've broken. In the near future, ambient intelligence may help elderly people age with dignity. Sensors throughout a home, detecting movement patterns without cameras, without invasion. The system learns normal routines. If something changes, if someone falls, it alerts family or emergency services. An invisible safety net allowing people to live independently longer, to maintain autonomy while having protection. Compassionate technology enabling independence while providing safety. This points to something deeper, a concept called technological symbiosis, the idea that humans and AI will evolve together, each focusing on what they do best. AI handles logic, data processing, pattern recognition. Humans handle empathy, creativity, intuition, meaning-making, together achieving more than either could alone. Not replacement, but collaboration. Not competition, but partnership. Between different kinds of intelligence, scientists are even using AI to help bring back extinct species, analyzing ancient DNA from frozen mammoths, piecing together genomes, identifying key genes. The goal isn't just spectacle, but restoration of ecosystems. Mammoths helped maintain Arctic grasslands. Their return could help preserve permafrost, combat climate change. De-extinction represents hope that our mistakes might be reversible. Meanwhile, soft robotics uses AI to control machines made of flexible materials, moving like octopuses, like jellyfish, safe around humans, gentle. These robots represent a different philosophy, machines that work with human vulnerability rather than despite it. Technology designed around safety and cooperation. AI-powered telescopes search for life on distant planets by analyzing atmospheres, looking for chemical signatures that suggest biology, oxygen and methane together, gases that shouldn't coexist without life maintaining them. The AI processes data from thousands of stars while we sleep, searching patiently for the quiet chemical whispers that say, something lives here. There's even a theoretical future where AI allows us to share not just images or sounds, but smells, tastes, physical sensations across networks. The internet of senses, experience becoming truly shareable, connection deepening beyond what current technology allows. And AI is working to preserve our digital heritage. Librarians made of algorithms, organizing and protecting every blog post, every photo, every piece of content ever created online, ensuring that our digital era isn't lost to format obsolescence, that even the smallest voices are preserved, that memory survives. Medicine is becoming personal through AI, analyzing your specific DNA, your lifestyle, your environment, creating healthcare plans unique to you, treatments optimized for your individual biology rather than statistical averages. Healthcare recognizing your uniqueness at the molecular level. And AI is democratizing creativity, giving anyone the tools to create, regardless of technical skill. You don't need to read music to compose. Don't need painting technique to make art. The technical partner that lets vision become reality. More voices able to express themselves. More creation. More beauty entering the world. Right now, autonomous vessels navigate the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Robot ocean cleaners working continuously, day and night, collecting plastic piece by piece. Patient, methodical work happening while the world sleeps. AI helping heal the oceans we've polluted. Scientists have created a digital twin of Earth, a complete simulation of our planet's climate. Running scenarios, testing interventions, helping us understand consequences before they happen in reality, giving us foresight, the ability to test solutions virtually before implementing them. And this points to the principle of collaborative intelligence, the recognition that the best results come from humans and AI working together, each contributing what they're best at. Humans providing context, values, judgment. AI providing processing power, pattern recognition, tireless analysis. Partnership between different kinds of intelligence, each valuable, each necessary. AI is even being used to design biophilic cities, urban spaces where nature isn't excluded but integrated, where every building includes green space, where concrete and plants coexist. The AI calculates optimal placement of trees and gardens, cities where you're never far from green, where urban life doesn't mean disconnection from nature, where buildings become vertical forests. The legacy of all this may be solving humanity's hardest problems. Hunger addressed through optimized agriculture, disease through personalized medicine, energy through smart grids and sustainable systems. Problems that have plagued humanity since the beginning finally becoming solvable through this partnership of human wisdom and machine capability. And as AI develops, it's teaching us something unexpected. It's making us value our humanity more deeply. By being emotionless, it shows us how precious emotion is. By being logical, it reveals the importance of intuition. AI can process and calculate and optimize, but it cannot love, cannot feel spontaneous joy, cannot experience the connection that makes human life meaningful. These remain uniquely ours. AI teaches through contrast, showing us what makes us precious by being something that, for all its capability, lacks what we have. The most peaceful fact about AI's future is simple. We are not being replaced. We're being supported, helped by a mind we created to let us dream bigger, to attempt what seemed impossible. AI has no purpose except what we give it, no goals except what we set. We created it. We direct it. The future is not humans replaced by machines, but humans and machines working together. Building futures neither could build alone. As the digital sunset glows, as servers hum their quiet song, we see a future taking shape, where AI helps heal the planet, where technology serves life, where silicon minds work to preserve and protect, green algorithms thinking efficiently, ocean cleaners restoring seas, rewilding projects bringing back forests, machines and nature coexisting, technology and Earth in harmony. The journey of AI is not separate from humanity's journey. It's part of it. Another chapter in our long story of innovation. We learned to control fire, to plant crops, to write, to compute, and now, to create intelligence. This is still our story, still us progressing, dreaming bigger, reaching further. AI doesn't end our story. It extends it. adds new chapters to the ongoing narrative of humanity learning and growing. The future arrives quietly, not with drama, but with patient accumulation of small improvements. Problems slowly being solved, damage gradually being healed. The machines hum their quiet song, processing, learning, helping, always in service, always guided by human values, always working toward human goals. As you drift into sleep, know this: the future being built is one of partnership, of collaboration, of different kinds of intelligence working together for common good. The silicon dream and the human dream are becoming one shared vision of a better world, of solved problems, of healed planet, of humanity supported in reaching its full potential. Sleep well in this knowledge that tomorrow is being built by human and machine together, that the digital minds serve life, that you matter more than ever. Your values guide the machines, your purposes direct them, your creativity inspires them, your humanity gives them meaning. The digital sunset has reached its conclusion. The horizon glows softly. And in this new era, you rest, supported by the intelligence you created, knowing that tomorrow, human and AI will wait together, ready to continue this beautiful collaboration toward a world where technology serves life, where intelligence enhances rather than replaces, where the partnership creates possibilities neither could achieve alone. Good night. Rest deeply. Dream peacefully. The future we're building together is bright, is hopeful, is worth the journey. Sleep now in the gentle glow of the digital sunset, in the quiet hum of patient algorithms, in the knowledge that the machines we've made support you, enhance you, help you dream bigger. Sweet dreams in the age of augmented intelligence, where human and machine work as one toward shared goals, toward common good, toward a tomorrow better than today. The silicon dream wraps around you like a blanket, warm, safe, supportive. Sleep, rest, dream. The future is being built while you sleep, and it's beautiful.